Put your hands where I can see them. That's what the police yelled at me, all because an angry neighbor from the HOA called them while I was moving my daughter's bright orange chair into our new cabin by the lake. She told them I was some kind of creep running an illegal rental with a fake daughter. And why? Because she hated the color of a chair. But this woman's plan backfired, and she ended up destroying her own life when I proved her entire HOA was a complete fake. I didn't just show everyone her big scam. I helped make our neighborhood the first in the country where HOAs are gone for good. If you're ready to see a real-life Karen get what she deserves, let me introduce myself. I'm David Johnson, a 42-year-old software engineer and a single dad. I've been raising my daughter, Maya, ever since I lost my wife, Sarah, to cancer. 3 years ago, Maya is 18, smart, full of spirit, and is about to head off to college. You see, that orange chair isn't just a piece of furniture. It was the last gift her mom, Sarah, gave her. Sarah bought it when she was too weak to even get out of bed because she wanted Maya to have something bright and cheerful to look forward to. Sarah always said that Maya needed more color in her life to remind her that even when times are tough, there's always something beautiful ahead. That chair became Maya's special, safe place during the hardest time in our lives. When we finally saved enough money to buy a simple cabin by the lake, Maya knew exactly where that chair was going to go. It had to be facing the water, where she could sit, read, and think about her mom. I had been saving for 2 years to get this place on Lakeshore Drive. It wasn't anything fancy, just a chance for a fresh start for us, a place where we could heal. The day we got the keys, Maya was so excited she was practically bouncing. She was already planning out her little reading spot, with the orange chair placed just right to see the perfect sunset over the lake that we drove up early on a Saturday morning with a truck full of our things. We were both smiling like fools because we finally had our own little piece of paradise. The weather was perfect, the lake was sparkling, and for the first time in years, everything just felt right. Maya had already picked her spot by the water and was telling me exactly how to angle the chair when our perfect morning went downhill fast. But that's when a woman named Dolores Vance showed up. Imagine a woman in her late 50s, dressed like she was going to a business meeting, not a casual Saturday at the lake. She was clutching a clipboard like it was a weapon. Her hair was pulled back so tight it looked like it hurt, and she had a look on her face like she'd just smelled something terrible. She marched across our lawn as if she owned it, her practical shoes clicking on the stones. Before Maya or I could even say hello, she started yelling at us. "Excuse me," she shouted, pointing right at Maya's orange chair as if it had personally insulted her. That eyesore is in direct violation of our community aesthetic standards. She didn't ask who we were, didn't introduce herself, and didn't even seem to notice that we were in the middle of moving into our own home. That Maya's face turned pale. Just seconds before, she had been so happy, talking about all the books she was going to read in that very spot. And now, this stranger was calling her most treasured possession an eyesore. I immediately stepped between the woman and my daughter. My dad mode kicked in. "Ma'am," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "This is my daughter, Maya, and this is our home. We just bought it." But Dolores didn't want to hear it. Her eyes narrowed as she looked from me to Maya and back again. I could almost see the gears turning in her mind. "I don't care about your family dynamics," she snapped. "I care about rules, and you are breaking several of them." She pointed at Maya again, her voice full of false authority. "This girl is clearly too young to own lakefront property. This is obvious subletting without HOA approval, and I will not tolerate rental fraud in our community." I felt my blood pressure shoot up as I saw my daughter shrink back. Maya had been through so much already. She didn't need a stranger yelling at her over a chair her mom had given her. "Ma'am," I said, my voice getting a little sharper now. "I don't know who you are or what power you think you have, but you're scaring my daughter over a chair. This is our home. We own it, and we can put our things wherever we want on our own property." Instead of backing down, Dolores pulled out her phone in a dramatic way. "Yes, police," she said loudly, making sure we heard every word. "I need to report suspicious activity and possible rental fraud at 47 Lakeshore Drive. There's a man here claiming a young woman is his daughter, but she's clearly too young to afford this property, and they're in violation of multiple community standards." Maya grabbed my arm, her voice just a whisper. "Dad, I'm scared. Why is she doing this to us?" I put my arm around her, staring at this woman who had just declared war on our family over an orange chair. As I heard police sirens getting closer, I knew this wasn't just a difficult neighbor having a bad day. This woman was dangerous, and she was far from finished with us. I had no idea that what happened next would change everything, not just for us, but for the entire neighborhood. What would you do if you thought the person accusing you was lying? Would you back down or fight back? If you think Dolores is lying, type fake. If you think she has real authority, type real. Officer Johnson arrived about 10 minutes later. He was probably expecting a simple argument between neighbors. Instead, he found Dolores acting like a calm and concerned community leader. She had completely changed her tone from the screaming woman she was moments before. She had a briefcase with her that looked like it belonged in a fancy office. It was clear. She knew how to play the system. "Officer, thank you so much for coming," she said in a sickly sweet voice. "I'm Dolores Vance, president of the Lakeview Community Homeowners Association, and I'm afraid we have a situation here with unapproved tenants and possible rental violations." She opened her briefcase as if she were a lawyer in a courtroom and pulled out laminated papers, official-looking violation notices, and even a fake HOA president ID card. Everything looked real and professional, exactly what you would expect from a real organization. That I tried to explain things to Officer Johnson, but Dolores kept cutting me off with what sounded like reasonable worries. "Sir," she said to the officer, completely ignoring me, "I've seen this happen before. Older men claim young women are family members to get around our rental rules and avoid the proper paperwork. Miss Maya here looks like she's college-aged, and she couldn't possibly afford a house on the lake. Plus, they've moved in furniture without following any of our rules." The way she said it made it sound so believable. Officer Johnson looked uncomfortable, but he had to investigate the complaint. Maya was shaking next to me, feeling embarrassed and ashamed that someone was suggesting she was part of a scam. "Dad," she whispered, "why is she doing this to us? We didn't do anything wrong." I squeezed her hand, trying to act confident, but honestly, I was worried. This Dolores woman was putting on an amazing show. The worst part was how official everything she had looked. The violation notices had case numbers. The community rules were printed on fancy paper, and she spoke with a kind of power that made you think she could really make our lives a nightmare. Officer Johnson took down our information, looked at our driver's licenses, and even asked to see the papers from when we bought the house. By the time he left, it felt like we were the ones being investigated for a crime, when all we did was put a chair on our own property. Dolores stood there the whole time with a smug look on her face, as if she had already won. As the police car drove away, she turned to us with a fake smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I hope you understand that we take our community standards very seriously here," she said. "You'll be hearing from us soon about the proper procedures for compliance." Then she walked away, leaving Maya and me feeling like we'd just been hit by a truck. Over the next 3 days, the notices started arriving. First, a violation notice for unauthorized furniture placement that was against the community aesthetic standards, with a $500 fine. Then another for failure to register new residents with the HOA board for another $300. The third notice was for disrupting community visual harmony, and it came with a $750 penalty. Each paper looked professional, with fancy letterhead, case numbers, and legal-sounding words that made me start to doubt myself. I wondered if I had missed something important in the paperwork when we bought the house. Maybe these rules were real, and I just didn't know about them. Maybe I had been too happy about our dream home to read all the details. The last notice was the worst. It said that if we didn't follow the rules within 30 days, there would be legal action and we could be forced to leave our home. That one made my hands shake. The last thing Maya needed was to lose another home. Our neighbors started avoiding us right away. Mrs. Patterson, our next-door neighbor who had waved so friendly when we first moved in, now rushed inside whenever she saw us coming. I overheard her talking to another neighbor by the mailboxes. "Dolores says they're not the kind of people we want in our community. Something about rental fraud and disrespecting property values." Other neighbors who had been friendly before now wouldn't even look at us when we walked by. Maya stopped sitting in her orange chair. She said everyone was staring at her, making her feel like she was doing something wrong just for being in her own yard. "Dad," she said one evening, with tears in her eyes, "maybe we should just put the chair inside. I don't want to cause Any more problems? Seeing my daughter give up her favorite spot, the one thing that connected her to her mom's memory, made me feel like a failure as a father. The joy we felt about our new home was disappearing, replaced with stress and confusion over rules we didn't understand and violations we didn't mean to commit. That's when Maya came to me, and she noticed something that changed everything. She had been crying, feeling overwhelmed by the hostile situation Dolores had created. She decided to try to fix it herself by looking up the HOA online to pay the fines. "Dad," she said, wiping her eyes, "I spent 2 hours trying to find the HOA's website so I could just pay these stupid fines and make this go away, but I can't find anything. Nothing at all. Isn't that weird? Shouldn't a real organization that's collecting this much money have some kind of website?" I was so tired and defeated that I almost brushed it off. "Honey," I said, "maybe it's just an old website, or they do everything by mail. Let's not make things worse." But as I said it, something started to bother me. Maya was right. In today's world, what real organization didn't have a website? The seed of doubt she had planted began to grow, and I had a feeling our nightmare was about to take a completely different turn. Will David give up and pay the $1,550 in fines? Or will Maya's suspicion lead them to uncover something much bigger? Comment pay if you think David should give in, or fight if you think he should investigate Maya's suspicions. That night, Maya couldn't sleep. I could hear her pacing in her room. When I went to check on her around midnight, I found her hunched over her laptop with a dozen different websites open. "Dad," she said without looking up, "something is really wrong here. I've been searching for our HOA for hours, and I can't find a single trace of it anywhere." She showed me her screen. She had tried every search she could think of. Lakeview Community HOA, Lakeshore Drive Homeowners Association, Dolores Vance HOA President. Every search came back empty. "Look at this," she said, clicking on a website she finally found. "This is supposed to be their official website, but something about it feels off." She was right. At first glance, the site looked professional, but when we looked closer, things got strange. The About Us page was filled with generic phrases that could be about any community. The board members section used stock photos with fake-sounding names like John Smith and Jane Johnson. These were the kinds of names you'd use if you were making something up. But the biggest clue was the contact information. It listed a P.O. box address instead of a real office. And when Maya checked when the website was created, she found it was only 8 months old. Maya started what she called her evidence file, taking screenshots of everything and organizing it like she was preparing for a court case. "Dad, look at this," she said, pulling up the violation notices Dolores had sent us. "All of these are coming from the email address doloresvance58@gmail.com. What kind of professional organization uses a personal Gmail for official business?" She was absolutely right. My engineer brain started putting the pieces together, and I felt foolish for not seeing it sooner that I looked again at the physical papers Dolores had given us, but with fresh eyes. Under close inspection, it was obvious they were homemade. The letterhead was just a fancy font with a clip art logo. The official seal was something she had clearly downloaded from the internet. Even the paper felt wrong, too thin and cheap for something that was supposed to be from a real organization with the power to fine people hundreds of dollars and threaten to take their homes. "Maya," I said, a mix of anger and relief washing over me. "I think it's time we made some phone calls." The next morning, I called the county clerk's office. After being transferred 3 times, I finally got to someone who could help. "Hi," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I need to check if there's a registered homeowners association for my neighborhood on Lakeshore Drive." There was a short pause as the clerk checked the records. Then came the words that confirmed my worst fears. "Sir, we show no registered homeowner associations at that address. In fact, one has never been filed for that area in our records." Maya was watching my face as I took the call, and she saw the exact moment it all clicked. The doubt was gone, replaced by a cold, hard anger at what this woman had put us through. "She made you cry over a chair that belonged to your mother," I said to Maya after hanging up. "She's not getting away with this." For the first time since this nightmare began, Maya and I felt like we were on the same team again, working together instead of just trying to survive whatever Dolores threw at us. We had discovered that Dolores was running a completely fake HOA, collecting fines and controlling her neighbors through a massive scam. The violation notices, the official-looking papers, the confident way she spoke to the police officer. It was all a big act designed to make people believe she had power she didn't actually have. Dad, Maya said, her eyes lighting up with the same determination I hadn't seen since before her mother died. We need to expose her. But we need proof that even she can't deny. I was thinking the same thing, and an idea began to form. If she wants to play HOA president, I said, let's give her a chance to really perform the role. But this time, we'll be ready for her. Maya suggested that we needed to record everything. If we could get Dolores on camera doing something that proved beyond a doubt that she was running a scam, we would have her. The more we talked, the more excited Maya became, not just about catching Dolores, but about protecting other neighbors who might have also been scammed. How many people do you think have been paying her fake fines? Maya asked. How many families has she scared with her fake power? I realized that her personal attack on us was probably part of a much larger scheme that had been going on for a long time. Dolores had created an entire fake organization just to feel powerful. The scale of her lie was amazing, but it also made her vulnerable. If we could get her to put on her show one more time, in a situation we controlled, we could expose her completely. Here's what we're going to do, I told Maya. I'm going to email Dolores and ask for a formal meeting with the entire HOA board to discuss our violations. If she's running a real organization, she should be able to bring other board members, show us real documents, and follow official procedures. But if she's making it all up, Maya grinned, knowing exactly where I was going. She'll have to quickly find fake board members, and she'll probably mess it up. We both knew it was a risk. If Dolores was as smart as she seemed, she might pull off another convincing performance. But we also knew that the bigger the lie, the harder it is to keep all the details straight. If we put enough pressure on her fake system, something would break. And when it did, we'd be there to catch it all on camera. Now that they knew Dolores was running a fake HOA, what kind of trap could they set to expose her without it backfiring? Type trap with your best idea for how to catch Dolores in the act that I spent the next morning writing the perfect email to Dolores. I made it sound respectful and compliant, but also included specific requests to make her nervous. Dear Ms. Vance, I wrote, I would like to formally address the violations you have identified. To do so, I request a meeting with the full HOA board of directors present. Could we schedule a meeting so I can better understand the community's processes and ensure we are following all regulations? I want to handle this matter properly and according to official procedures. I made sure to use words like full board, official procedures, and proper documentation, because I wanted her to know that I expected a real organization, not just her personal opinions disguised as rules. When I hit send, I felt like a hunter setting a trap for a very clever animal. Except this animal had been bullying my family and the whole neighborhood for months, maybe even years. Dolores replied in less than an hour, which should have been my first clue that something was wrong. Real HOA boards don't schedule emergency meetings so quickly, but Dolores was so sure of herself that she immediately agreed to a meeting the next evening. Mr. Johnson, she wrote back, the board appreciates your willingness to address these matters. We can meet tomorrow at 7 p.m. at my home for a formal review of your violations. All relevant board members will be present. Her tone was that of someone who thought she had already won, but she didn't know she was about to walk into a trap that would bring her whole act crashing down. As soon as I confirmed the meeting, I knew she had less than 24 hours to find and prepare a fake board of directors. And that's when even the most carefully planned lies start to fall apart. Maya and I spent that afternoon learning everything we could about real HOA procedures. What we found made Dolores' scam even more obvious. Real homeowners associations have to be officially registered with the state, keep detailed financial records, hold elections for board members, and follow strict legal steps before they can fine anyone or take legal action. They can't just appear out of nowhere because someone wants to control their neighbors, and they certainly can't start collecting money without any legal authority. Dad, Maya said, what if we show up early tomorrow? If she's trying to put together a fake board, she might be coaching them on what to say right before the meeting. It was a brilliant idea. If we could catch Dolores rehearsing with her fake board members, we'd have proof that the whole thing was staged. Maya suggested she could set up her phone to record the meeting, and if we caught them in the act, we'd have evidence that no one could deny. The next evening, Maya and I arrived at Dolores' house 30 minutes early. We pretended we were there to prepare for the meeting, but we really wanted to catch her setting up her show. We parked across the street and waited. Sure enough, around 6:30, two older women arrived at Dolores's front door, looking nervous and uncomfortable. Maya had her phone ready, and we snuck close enough to hear what was going on through an open window. What we heard was better than we could have ever hoped for. "Betty, remember you've been our secretary for 3 years," Dolores was saying in a frantic, panicked voice. "You take the notes and handle the mail. And Carol, you're the treasurer. If anyone asks about money, just say we have plenty, but you don't have the exact numbers with you." We could hear Betty's nervous reply. "Dolores, are you sure this isn't illegal? What if they ask questions we can't answer?" And Carol added, "I don't know the first thing about being a treasurer. What if they want to see financial reports?" Dolores's voice got sharper as she tried to coach her friends. "Just follow my lead. Don't say anything unless they ask you directly. This man is trying to ruin our property values by ignoring our standards, and we are doing a community service by stopping him." She went on to rehearse specific answers to questions she thought I might ask, even practicing how they should introduce themselves and how long they had supposedly been on the board. Maya and I looked at each other, stunned. We were watching a masterclass in how to commit fraud, and it was happening right in front of us. And Maya was recording every word on her phone. This wasn't just proof of a fake HOA. This was proof of active deception and a conspiracy to commit fraud. When 7 o'clock arrived, we knocked on Dolores's door. We were now armed with information that would completely destroy her credibility. But first, we had to sit through her performance one last time to get her on record making false statements directly to our faces. The meeting was almost too ridiculous to be real. Dolores had set up her dining room to look like a corporate boardroom, with a folding table, nameplates, and stacks of documents that were obviously printed just hours before. "Mr. Johnson and Miss Maya," she said with a fake, formal tone, "I'd like you to meet Betty Johnson, our board secretary, and Carol Martinez. No relation to you, of course, our treasurer." Betty looked like she wanted to disappear under the table. She kept shuffling her papers and avoiding looking at us. When I asked about the HOA's current financial status, Carol panicked and said, "Well, it's substantial." When I asked to see the financial reports, Betty quickly jumped in with, "We forgot to bring them today." The whole act was falling apart right before our eyes, and Maya was capturing every second on her phone while pretending to take notes. The final nail in the coffin came when I asked about the community bylaws she had been using to justify the fines. She confidently handed me a thick binder that looked official enough. I made a show of flipping through it. "These are very thorough," I said. "When were they last updated?" That's when Betty, trying to be helpful, made the fatal mistake. "Oh, Dolores just finished writing those last week." The room went completely silent. Dolores's face went white as she realized what had just happened. Carol, not understanding what Betty had just done, tried to help. Yeah, she was up all night on her computer, making them look official. Game over. Maya's phone had recorded everything. The coaching session, the nervous fake board members, and now, a direct confession that the bylaws had been created just a week ago by Dolores herself. We had enough evidence to expose her completely, and she knew it. With Dolores exposed and her fake board members admitting everything, would she try to lie her way out, or would she attempt one last desperate move? Comment run if you think Dolores will flee, lie if she'll deny everything, or attack if you think she'll go on the offensive. Instead of confronting Dolores right after the disastrous fake board meeting, Maya and I decided to go big. We weren't just going to expose her to her face. We were going to make sure the entire neighborhood knew exactly what kind of person they had been dealing with. The next morning, I designed and printed professional-looking flyers with the headline, "Important Community Meeting, HOA Transparency and Financial Review." I made them look official enough for people to take them seriously, but vague enough that Dolores wouldn't suspect she was walking into a trap. Maya and I went door to door, personally delivering the flyers to every house in the neighborhood. We explained that we had discovered some serious issues with the HOA's operations and that everyone needed to know about them. The reaction was immediate and incredible. Neighbor after neighbor told us they had been paying monthly fees to Dolores, getting violation notices for minor things, and feeling too intimidated to challenge what they thought was a real authority. Mrs. Patterson, our next-door neighbor who had been avoiding us, was one of the first to come forward. David, she said, looking ashamed. I had no idea. I've been paying Dolores $75 a month for community maintenance for almost 2 years. She told me it was required for all homeowners, so I never questioned it. As we spoke to more people, the true scale of Dolores's scam became clear. She had been taking money from at least 15 families, fining them for everything from the height of their grass to the color of their mailboxes. She had created an atmosphere of fear where no one dared to question her. An elderly couple 3 houses down had even paid her a $500 special assessment for emergency community improvements. That never happened. Dolores hadn't just been targeting us. She had been systematically scamming and terrorizing the entire neighborhood for years. Maya had been posting about our investigation on social media, and her posts about exposing a fake HOA started to go viral. Her video from the fake board meeting was shared hundreds of times, and comments poured in from people who had dealt with similar abusive HOA officials in their own communities. "You won't believe what we discovered about our fake HOA," she posted. "Full expose tonight at 7 p.m. at the community center. This is going to be insane." The video quickly got thousands of views and was climbing, with people sharing their own HOA horror stories and cheering us on for fighting back against what they called a Karen epidemic. News of our community meeting spread far beyond our neighborhood. I realized we weren't just exposing one scammer. We were connecting with a much larger issue that people everywhere could relate to: the feeling of being powerless against petty tyrants. The evening of the community meeting, our local community center was packed. It wasn't just our neighbors. People from nearby towns who had heard about our HOA expose came to see what would happen. Dolores arrived looking ready for a fight, carrying her briefcase and followed by Betty and Carol, who both looked absolutely miserable. She had even brought a friend who she introduced as her legal counsel, a man who was apparently a real lawyer but clearly had no idea what he was walking into. "Ladies and gentlemen," Dolores announced, setting up her own presentation area. "We are here tonight because Mr. Johnson has been spreading lies and false information about our legitimately elected HOA board. I have documents and evidence that will prove our organization operates legally and follows all community standards." She actually had a PowerPoint presentation ready, complete with slides on property values, community standards, and the importance of neighborhood integrity. For a moment, as she presented, you could almost believe her. That's when I stood up and calmly asked if I could address the room. "Before we discuss community standards and property values," I said, "I think we should establish some basic facts about the organization that has been collecting money and issuing violations in our neighborhood." I connected my laptop to the projector and began to systematically take apart every piece of Dolores's fake authority. Slide 1. County records showing 0 registered HOAs at our address. Slide 2. A screenshot of the email address, doloresvance58@gmail.com, as the official contact for a supposedly professional organization. Slide 3. The HOA website's creation date, showing it was only 8 months old. Slide 4. The stock photos used for the board members on the website, complete with the original Getty Images watermark still visible. Asterisk. The room grew silent as our neighbors realized they had been completely fooled. But I wasn't finished. Then, I played the audio recording from our fake board meeting. Betty's nervous voice filled the room through the speakers. "Oh, Dolores just finished writing those last week," followed by Carol's enthusiastic confirmation. "Yeah, she was up all night on her computer, making them look official." The reaction was immediate and explosive. Mrs. Patterson jumped to her feet, shouting, "I want my money back. All $1,800 of it." Other neighbors began calling out their own losses, special assessments, violation fines, monthly fees. The total amount Dolores had scammed was shocking. Her lawyer friend quietly packed his briefcase and slipped out the back door, wanting no part of the public shaming that was unfolding. Betty and Carol looked horrified, and for a second, I almost felt sorry for them, until I remembered they had willingly helped defraud their own neighbors. But then, something unexpected happened. Instead of trying to deny anything, Dolores completely broke down. "You don't understand," she shouted through tears, her calm act completely shattered. "When my husband, Harold, died 3 years ago, this neighborhood was a mess. Dogs running loose, trash cans left out for days. No one cared about anything." Her voice got higher and more desperate. I lost everything when Harold died. Our house, our savings, our retirement, it all went to medical bills. All I had left was this place, and I just wanted it to be beautiful again. I wanted to matter to someone, somewhere. The room shifted uncomfortably as we watched this woman's emotional breakdown. I could see Maya next to me, struggling with the same mix of feelings I had. Dolores wasn't just a criminal. She was a broken, lonely person who had convinced herself that controlling others was the same as helping them. I understand grief and wanting to protect what matters, I said, speaking to both Dolores and the room. But Mrs. Vance, you can't build a community with lies and fear. I turned to the neighbors. The question is, what kind of community do we want to be? Mrs. Patterson stood up again. I want my $75 a month back, but I also don't want all this formal HOA nonsense. Can't we just talk to each other like neighbors? Murmurs of agreement spread through the room, and I realized we had a chance to do something much bigger than just exposing one scammer. We could create something better than what Dolores had tried to force on us, with the entire neighborhood now united against fake HOAs and Dolores emotionally broken. What could David possibly do that's bigger than just getting everyone's money back? Type money if you think they should just demand refunds. Or bigger if David has something more ambitious planned. As the community meeting ended, with neighbors demanding their money back and discussing what to do about Dolores's fraud, Maya suddenly stood up with a determined look on her face, the one I had learned to recognize as her "I have an idea" face. "What if we make sure this never happens again?" she said, her voice clear and strong. Like ever. She pulled out her phone and showed the crowd the research she had been doing while everyone else was focused on the immediate problem. "I found out that communities can legally declare themselves HOA-resistant," she explained. "It's like a community charter that prevents any future HOA from being formed without the unanimous agreement of all residents. We could make our neighborhood permanently immune to this kind of abuse." The room erupted in excited conversation as people realized Maya wasn't just talking about fixing the current issue. She was proposing a permanent solution that would protect them and future residents from ever having to deal with a fake, or even a real, HOA that might abuse its power. Mrs. Patterson was the first to speak up, raising her hand like she was in school. "After what we've been through tonight, I am absolutely in favor of that. I never want to deal with fake fees or violation notices, or have anyone tell me what color to paint my mailbox ever again." Other voices quickly joined in. "Count me in. How do we do it? Is that really legal?" Maya had clearly done her homework because she had an answer for every question. "It's completely legal," she explained. "We just need a simple majority of households to agree, and then we file a community charter with the county. Once it's approved, our neighborhood becomes a self-governed zone, where any future HOA would need 100% consent from all residents to be created. Basically, we're making ourselves HOA-proof forever." The idea was brilliant in its simplicity. Instead of just punishing Dolores, we were creating a system that would prevent anyone from ever wielding that kind of fake power over our community again. What happened next was the most positive and inspiring community event our neighborhood had ever seen. Instead of having rules forced upon them, Maya and I spent the next 2 weeks going door to door to actually listen to what people wanted for their community. We discovered so many wonderful things that had been suppressed by years of Dolores's intimidation. Mr. Rodriguez, who lived at the end of the street, was a retired contractor who had been wanting to help neighbors with home repairs but was afraid Dolores would fine him for running a business. The Johnson family had a teenage daughter who could babysit for working parents, but they never organized it because they were worried about breaking the community quiet hours. Mrs. Wilson was a talented gardener who had been secretly growing vegetables in her backyard because she was afraid bright, colorful plants would violate the aesthetic standards. For the first time in years, neighbors were talking to each other about helping one another, not just worrying about breaking rules. Maya documented our door-to-door campaign on social media, and her posts about creating the first HOA-proof neighborhood in our county went viral. Her series, How to Ban Fake HOAs, was shared by people all over the country who had experienced similar problems with abusive community associations. Major news outlets started calling for interviews, creating the first HOA-proof neighborhood in our county, she posted, is about showing how communities can govern themselves without bureaucracy or fear. Comments poured in from people asking how they could do the same in their own neighborhoods, and Maya became an accidental hero for community self-determination. Local news stations wanted to film our process, and Maya was taking calls from newspapers, wanting to write stories about our new approach to neighborhood living. Not everyone in our community agreed at first. 3 households had serious concerns about property values, basic standards, and what would happen if someone decided to paint their house neon pink or let their yard get overgrown. "What about property values?" asked one neighbor. "Who enforces basic standards?" asked another. "What if someone does something really crazy that affects all of us?" These were fair questions. So, I organized a second community meeting. Instead of creating strict rules, we worked together to create what we called a good neighbor agreement, a set of voluntary guidelines based on mutual respect, not on enforcement and penalties. Maya presented our final proposal to the group. "We're not anti-organization," she explained. "We're pro-choice. We're for a community that decides for itself, instead of having decisions made by people who might not have our best interests at heart." The big vote was held on a Saturday morning at the community center. With 27 households in our neighborhood, we needed a simple majority to file our HOA-resistant charter. Maya live-streamed the whole thing, and her audience had grown too. Thousands of people from all over the country, watching as we made history. "This is it, guys," she said to her phone camera. "We're about to become the first neighborhood to voluntarily make itself permanently HOA-proof." One by one, families came to cast their votes. It felt more like a celebration than an election. The vote counting was done publicly, with Maya announcing each result as we tallied them. 25 votes for community self-governance. She finally announced. 2 votes against and 0 abstentions. We did it. The room erupted in cheers as I officially signed the community charter, ready to submit it to the county clerk's office. I walked into the county clerk's office and formally submitted our community charter. We, the residents of Lakeshore Drive, formally declare our neighborhood a self-governed community zone, permanently resistant to any form of mandatory homeowner association, I said, handing over the signed document. The clerk stamped it with an official seal and gave me back a certified copy. "Congratulations," she said with a smile. "You're now legally HOA-proof." Maya's live stream audience went wild, celebrating as she announced our victory. To thousands of viewers, comments flooded in from other communities, asking for help with their own HOA problems. "And that's how you ban an HOA forever," I said, looking right into Maya's camera with our official certificate in my hand. And in the corner of the room during our celebration, Dolores sat quietly, watching everything. After everyone had left, I went over to her with sympathy. "Mrs. Vance," I said, "it's clear you genuinely care about the community and want to help people. There's a volunteer coordinator position open at the senior center downtown. They need someone with organizational skills who wants to make a real difference in people's lives." For the first time in months, Dolores smiled, a real, genuine smile. "They would actually want my help?" she asked quietly. "The right kind of help," I assured her. "The kind that comes from serving people, not controlling them." Our neighborhood has officially banned HOAs forever. But how will this change our community in the long run? And what will happen to the other communities that try to follow our lead? Type your city name if you want to try HOA-proofing your own neighborhood *. 6 months after we officially became the first HOA-proof neighborhood in our county, the change has been incredible. Maya's bright orange chair still sits in its place of honor, facing the lake. But now, it's surrounded by a small collection of colorful outdoor furniture that other neighbors have added over time. What started as one girl's reading spot has become an informal gathering place for the whole community, where people stop to chat, kids play games, and everyone feels welcome to just sit and enjoy the view. The chair that Dolores once called an eyesore has become a symbol of the freedom we've created, the freedom to make our own choices about our homes and our lives, without fear of random rules or fake authority figures telling us what we can and can't do on our own property. The Good Neighbor Network that grew out of our campaign has done more to bring our community together in 6 months than years of Dolores's fake rules ever did. We've organized 3 community barbecues where people actually get to know each other, instead of just trying to avoid rule violations. We've coordinated snow removal for elderly residents, started a neighborhood garden where Mrs. Wilson teaches anyone who wants to learn how to grow vegetables, created a babysitting co-op to help working parents, and set up a tool-sharing program that saves everyone money and builds relationships. Property values in our neighborhood have actually gone up, not because of strict rules, but because people want to live in a place where neighbors truly care about each other and work together to solve problems instead of creating them. Maya's social media series, HOA Proofing Your Neighborhood, has exploded beyond anything we could have imagined. It has reached over 2 million views and has inspired similar movements in 12 different states. She's been interviewed by major news outlets, invited to speak at community organizing conferences, and has become an accidental expert on neighborhood self-governance. Her college applications, which once seemed so stressful, now include essays about community activism and social media advocacy. Several universities have already contacted her, interested in her work. What started as a fight to protect her mother's orange chair has turned into a mission that's helping people all over the country take back control of their communities from petty bullies and unfair rules. The most amazing transformation has been Dolores herself. She found her true purpose at the Sunset Senior Center, where her organizational skills are genuinely appreciated and used to help people who actually need assistance. She coordinates volunteer activities, manages the meal program for seniors who can't cook for themselves, and has become a beloved member of the community, benefiting from real help rather than fake control. She sometimes walks past our house on her evening strolls, and the sight of Maya's orange chair no longer makes her angry. Instead, it reminds her of the day she learned the difference between controlling people and serving them. One evening last month, Dolores stopped by our house with a basket of fresh tomatoes from the senior center's garden. "Maya," she said, "I thought you might like these. Harold always said the best tomatoes grow near bright, happy colors." She smiled at the orange chair, and there was no sign of the bitter, controlling woman who had once tried to fine us for it. Maya, who has grown so much in wisdom and kindness over these past months, gave Dolores a genuine hug. "Mrs. Vance," she said, "would you like to sit with me sometime? I'm reading a fascinating book about community organizing that I think you'd find really interesting." Watching these two former enemies find common ground in their shared love for their community reminded me that healing is possible, even after the biggest conflicts, when people are willing to see each other as human beings instead of enemies. The national news crew that came to film our HOA-free zone for a human interest story captured something beautiful about what we've built here. When the reporter asked if I ever worry about property maintenance and community standards, without rules, I was able to gesture to our beautiful, well-kept neighborhood with real pride. When people choose to take care of something because they love it, not because they're forced to, I explained, the results speak for themselves. Maya added her own thought. "We didn't need to ban HOAs to create a community," she said. "We just needed to ban the fear of them." Mrs. Patterson, when asked if she had any regrets about getting rid of the traditional HOA structure, laughed and said, "Honey, I've never been happier. My neighbor helped me fix my roof last week, and another neighbor brought me soup when I was sick. Try getting that kind of care from a violation notice." The news story's final shot perfectly captured what we've accomplished. Maya is sitting in her bright orange chair, reading a book, with the beautiful lake sparkling behind her. To one side, our community garden is visible, where neighbors are working together to grow food and flowers. The reporter asked for one last thought, and Maya looked up from her book with the kind of wisdom that comes from surviving loss and fighting for what's important. "This chair was my mom's last gift to me," she said. "She wanted me to have something bright and happy for my future." She paused, looking at the neighbors chatting, the kids playing, and the dogs running free. She even glanced at Dolores, who was helping an elderly neighbor with her garden. "My mom would love this. Not just the chair, but what it represents. The freedom to be yourself, to make your own choices, and to build relationships based on kindness, not rules." I had joined Maya for the final shot, putting my hand on her shoulder as the camera pulled back to show our entire neighborhood. A community that looks exactly like what happens when people are free to be human beings instead of just rule followers. The wooden sign by our community garden reads, "Lakeshore Drive, self-governed since 2025. No HOA needed." And it stands for something much bigger than just our small part of the world. Maya's voiceover for the news story became the perfect summary of everything we had accomplished. So, that's how we banned an HOA forever. Not just Dolores's fake one, but the whole idea of letting fear and control pretend to be community leadership. And honestly, it was the best decision we ever made. As the camera faded out on our peaceful, self-governed neighborhood, people all over the country were already planning their own HOA-proofing campaigns, inspired by the simple idea that communities work best when they're built on trust, not rules, cooperation, not control, and love, not fear. What other neighborhoods will follow their example? And how many HOA tyrants across the country are about to face their own orange? Share moment. Share this story if you believe communities are stronger when they choose cooperation over control.